So what are we celebrating?
Well, on top of still celebrating our engagement, because I feel like I'm, and this is the dress that I wore for it, because it's just,
Tell the people who don't know or didn't watch the last video, which you should watch the last video.
Yes, if you didn't watch the last video, we got engaged. Yay. So, really, really happy, very, very excited. But on top of that, we're also kind of celebrating my birthday because I just turned 23.
Yeah. So if you want to send any birthday wishes or anything, right here. So we would appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, plus, I already had a grand birthday gift because someone over here, are you sitting? Got me 23 pounds of chocolate for my birthday. Yeah, oh, here, wait. I have an example.
Again, if you watched the last video,
which you should have,
you saw the chocolate bar. That was 5 pounds of it.
But also, because, it's the only thing that's still intact. This is the world's biggest Hershey Kiss.
This is one. All right, so today we're going to talk about credit card versus debit cards. So we're going to kind of go over the basics of each one. I'll give you my experience on each one. I have both. Yeah. And then kind of pros and cons, and then you can decide which one you like best.
Yeah. And I might sprinkle in a little bit of my own experience with those. And
yeah. All right. So we're going to start with debit cards because those are simpler to understand. Credit cards can take a little more time. So we'll just start with a debit card. So when you get a bank account, you have money in the bank account. Very simple. So that's why we have bank accounts or savings accounts, whatever. Yeah. But for this particular one, it's a checking account. So when you have a checking account, you have money in it. Let's say you have $100 in it. Mm-hmm. That means that the bank always issues you a debit card so that you can have access to your account. Like you can get money out if you want, or you can buy things with that $100. So that's what a debit card is. It debits the money from your checking account and then goes to wherever. If you're paying like at the gas station, then it debits it in the slot you put your card in. So that's basically the general idea of a debit card. The pros of the debit card is it's very simple to use. You can't get into any kind of trouble like we're going to talk about.
Unless you don't know how much money is in your checking account or have accessible on your debit card.
But I mean, you can't get into like overspending trouble, I guess I should say. And then most of them are pretty secure, but they're bank cards, so they can always get hacked into, whatever. Yeah. But a lot of people like to use debit cards only because if you have problems, like if you tend to be a spender, they can kind of limit that because you can't spend any more than what you have in the account. So those are some of the pros of debit cards. Some of the cons are, this happened to me actually. This is actually a big con, which kind of changed my thought a lot on debit cards because I used to be a huge debit card user, but then I started getting credit cards, which we'll explain later. But the reason why I got weary of debit cards is because my debit card actually got stolen by somebody. I put it like at the gas station, put it in the thing and took it out, and somebody had copied the stripe basically. So they started buying stuff with my debit card. And that was a problem because I had a decent amount of money in that account. And then they started debiting it. And then I called the bank to tell them that somebody was fraudulently using my card. And all they could do is just stop it. But they don't necessarily give you that money back right away. Thanks. So that however much money that person spent is out of your account until they review it. And then they can put all that money back if they find that it was a fraudulent activity. But they have to go through all that process, which can take several weeks or a month, or I forget how long it was for me. But it was several weeks. So for that several weeks, you don't have that money that the person spent, which can be a problem with debit cards. Also, the con with debit cards is it does not help you at all with your credit score. Credit score is super important. It helps you get loans and everything. Debit card will not help you with that at all. Another con, you definitely want to watch what you spend because if you don't have overdraft protection on your bank account, it will get declined. And then if you don't have cash or anything, then you're kind of out of luck. Like if you buy gas or something, and then you go inside to pay and you don't have any money, then you're screwed. So
yeah, that happened once with me in college. Didn't have the coverage thing on there, and then the thing is, I had no idea when, and luckily it was only just a couple dollars, like it was like at most I think $5, but I had no idea, and I wasn't even notified saying like, oh yeah, you have only this much money. I got 2 overdraft fees. Luckily I called the bank right away, and it was like, I didn't realize this was happening. I thought I had money in here, blah blah blah. And thankfully, because it was a child, not you know, paying attention to things, and they were saying this was the first time it happened. Thankfully, they gave me my money back. It's like, oh my god, but let's just say my mother was not happy with me when that happened.
Yeah, so you can get in trouble with those for sure. So those are some of the pros and cons. We'll kind of discuss the differences in a minute, but I wanted to go over credit cards just briefly. So credit cards literally mean the bank or whatever card you get it from, MasterCard, Visa, whatever, they will lend you the money that you spend, and then you pay it back to them at a later date. So it is credit. It's not debit, meaning you already have it and they're just taking it out. It's credit, meaning that you don't necessarily have it, but they will give you the credit for it. And then they expect you to pay later on. So that's kind of the idea of credit cards. Again, you can go to any, like American Express, Chase, Wells Fargo, any big bank.
Bank of America, you know,
everybody gets credit cards.
Yeah.
They're pretty easy to get, but you want to be very, very, very careful with credit cards.
Yeah. I will say, growing up, I was always told stay away from credit cards at all costs or only have one. But even that being said, like, yes, you can very easily get in trouble with credit cards, but there was actually a time back in 2019, for whatever reason, my debit card expired and they had to send it to me like 3 times because for whatever reason I wasn't getting it. I was like, they're like, oh yeah, it came in the mail. I was like, no, it didn't. My credit card saved my life because I only had about like $50 in cash, and you know, I was working a job that I had to get a lift for every day. So had I not had access to my debit card and not have my credit card, I would have been screwed. And that was for a couple months that was going on. So my credit card literally saved my life. So at least have one.
Yeah, well, that still leads me to my first pro of credit cards, is that if you had like what you had or what I had with my debit card, like let's just say that it happened on a credit card, the credit card company would easily just assess it and then just cancel it. Yeah. But you didn't already pay for it because it's just on your credit card statement, which hasn't happened yet. So this is the one good thing about having a credit card, is that it's much more friendly with theft. Of course, it can still happen. You still want to check your account definitely on a weekly basis, or if you're crazy like me, I check it almost on a daily basis just to make sure there's nothing going on. But there's definitely a pro, is much more friendly if anything gets stolen on there, because the credit card company can look into it and then just get rid of it. Another pro to credit cards is it does help you with your credit score a lot if you use them right. Yeah, this is all a big caveat, which we will get to the cons of credit cards in a minute, but credit cards will definitely help you with your credit score. I personally highly recommend the second you turn 18, you get a student credit card with a very, very small limit. So credit cards have things called limits. Oh yes,
after this happened, yeah, he definitely was like, yeah, when we have kids, definitely need to do A, B, and C with them, with credit cards and investment accounts and all the things. So, oh yeah, he definitely recommended.
Oh yeah, so like you have a limit. When you're young, you want a small limit. So I would say no more than like $500, just to prove that you can manage a credit card, that you're good with it and everything, and then you can start to have more of a limit. So what's a limit? A limit basically means that is the cap or the ceiling that you can spend on that card. So let's just say you had a $500 limit on your card. That means you could, once you get to that 500 point, you can't spend anymore. You're done.
No more.
So it's kind of like a debit card taking money out, but in like reverse. That's just how much you can spend. Kind of abstract thing, but yeah. So that's like your cap that you can spend. So those are good to have. When the older you get, the more you make, the more assets you have, the higher that limit is going to be, and the higher you want it to be.
And even then, the more responsible you are with paying back your card, the credit cards, the banks will automatically give you a higher limit. So like after I think maybe a year of paying off my credit card on time, they were like, okay, you look pretty responsible with your credit, and then they pretty much doubled my credit limit. So, you know, just as long as you're on top of it and as long as you're being responsible, you know, you'll be able to reap the benefits out of it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's another pro. The third pro to credit cards is that you can actually get bonuses, and sign up bonuses and bonuses for using the card.
We love the bonuses.
So for example, I've made like a decent amount of money last year just on credit card bonuses. I think I had like 4 or 5 cards and got bonuses on a lot of them. So that's a great way to make a little bit of extra money.
And I will say it is nice when it comes time to pay your credit card bill and you see, oh, I have $100 worth of points. I could use that to pay my credit card bill. I don't even have to pay anything out of my pocket. Oh my God, it's beautiful. Yeah. It is the best feeling ever.
And just as a small example, so we got to stay at the Bellagio in Vegas.
Very, very fancy hotel.
The proposal. And I actually paid for that with points, so I did not pay a dime for that room.
That's crazy.
Using credit card points.
That is insane.
So if you use it right, credit card points and bonuses can be very beneficial. And it's just like, if you're gonna spend the money anyway, you might as well get something back for it. But that brings me to my first con of credit cards, is that you have to be frugal with credit cards. Yes. You do not spend on anything that you don't need, which for a lot of people is going to be kind of a wide range of things. So the number one key with credit cards is that you have to spend only on what you would normally spend. Yes. If you start spending on like, oh, I need some $500 shoes, then it doesn't. The bonuses they're not worth it.
I'm sorry, nobody ever needs $500 purchase shoes. That's just my opinion.
You're not going to be able to make that back in the bonuses, and some of them have annual fees too. So keep that in mind as another small con. But you have to be frugal. That's the number one thing, because if you get credit card debt, which a lot of people have, you're going to start paying 20% interest on that credit card.
Not fun.
So that's going to just be a huge number very quickly. So you do not want credit card debt. That's the number one con, is you always have to pay it off. I recommend paying it off every month. If you don't have the money for it, don't get it. Second con is you want to be careful with the amount of credit cards that you get. Like if you're smart with your credit cards, and you
this man has like 10 of them.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I literally joke with him all the time. I'm like, by the time we're 70, he's gonna have like every credit card known to man. Yeah, I'm not really joking anymore. I think that's actually going to happen by the time we get to retirement age. And
yeah, but again, I have ones that do all different things. So
I know, but it's still a lot.
Yeah, but again, so take it as a lesson. You want to be careful, because every card that you open up, it stays on your credit report for 2 years.
Yes.
So you just want to be careful and not open up 20 cards because you think, oh, I'm going to make like $100 on each of these, because that will drive down your credit score.
And thankfully, I know he's, good with all that, so I don't have to worry about it too much, but it's still kind of like, it's a lot.
So you just want to be careful with it. I would definitely say, like, of all things, please, if you hear one thing from this video, do not get credit card debt. That is the number one con. It outweighs all other pros. Do not get credit card debt and pay your credit card off. So as long as you're frugal, credit cards can be a great thing. So let's just kind of compare the two. So you have debit card and credit card. I've talked about the pros and the cons. In my opinion, I'm much more of a credit card fan. I do have a debit card because you pretty much have to when you get a checking account, just so you can access that. And you can also use it for the ATM or whatever. If you are frugal and you think you can handle it, credit cards can be a great thing, and it can be a blessing for you. If not, don't do it.
Yeah, I will say, after that one incident with my debit card, like, it's very rare that I just use my debit card now. Usually I'll use my credit card for everything, because then, I have a little bit more time to pay. It's not immediately coming out of my checking account. And then unless I have, like, check for my rent, which has to come out from a check or a debit card, like, then I have all that stuff coming out of my bank account, and I don't have to worry about so much money coming out at once. So it is nice to pay off the checking or the credit card, obviously, once a month. But, like, I do it weekly, so I only have to pay, like, a little bit at a time versus, like, a huge lump sum all at once. So that's very nice.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Well, I recommend you just pay off the whole balance. If you can't, you can just pay off bits at a time.
Yeah.
I'd recommend you pay as much as possible.
Yeah.
But in the first year, usually you have like a grace period where you don't get interest on anything, so you can do that. So yeah, to me, credit cards give you much more flexibility. Debit card is simple, which is great. I like simplicity, but it's also very limited in what it can give you. If you're smart with credit cards, you can really get great bonuses. You get great benefits from it. But again, the pitfalls are very, very much real with credit cards. That's why you hear about credit card debt all the time, ruining people's lives. That definitely happens.
Almost as much as student loans.
You definitely have to be careful with it. So if you're frugal, and I would say if you're 18, you should definitely get a student credit card, for the sole reason that it'll help your credit score.
Yeah.
Even if you don't use it, like buy one thing and then don't ever use it again, your credit score will be like 750, which credit score is a whole other video. But anything between, I'd say 700 and 800 is a great credit score. Anything above really 720, it doesn't really matter after that point. But so that gives you that score, and that'll help you get all kinds of loans and things in the future. So when you're young, you want to get a student credit card with a very, very small limit, $500, $1,000, so that you're not tempted to be like, oh, I could spend like $5,000 and I'll figure out how to pay for it later.
No, please don't do that.
Be smart, but it can be great for you. Okay, so let me just tell you about my experience real quick. So I got my first credit card when I was 23 because I avoided credit cards like the plague. I actually got it late. I don't recommend you do this because of what I learned, what I know now, basically. So I had a debit card ever since I was 18. I had a bank account, so you get a debit card with a bank account. And it was great, and it was fine, and I used it. I had the one incident where it got stolen, but it was okay. It resolved itself. And then I finally decided, okay, let me try the credit card thing so I can at least understand it, and I'll learn from it. And if I don't like it, then I won't use it. But at least I'll know more about it. So I tried it, and I started realizing all the bonuses and things you could get if you're frugal, which I tend to be more of a saver and frugal person, so it just naturally kind of fit like what I do anyway. So I started using them, and then I started to see all the things you could do with them. So then I started getting more, and now I have like 5 or 6 credit cards and 2 debit cards. But I get them very sparingly. I'm very smart with them. I have them all planned out when I get them, because again, you don't want too many inquiries. So I've learned how to harness them, and I recommend everybody do that because you can really, really get great bonuses and all kinds of things if you do it. But I wish I had done it earlier is kind of the moral of the story. So if you're young, I recommend you get a credit card, very low limit, and then pay it off and don't ever use it again. Don't even get close to that limit.
Yeah, I will say I kind of agree. I didn't get my first credit card until I was 21, and I kind of wish that I had gotten it sooner, because then, even though like I've sort of always had good credit, like it definitely would have helped me a lot more than it has. So
it's one of those things you may not understand, especially when you're really young.
Yeah.
But it will help you. Your 25 to 30-year-old self will thank you that your 18-year-old self. So do it and be smart, and I know you will. And yeah, that's just kind of the basics. Well, I'm sure we'll do more and more videos about credit cards and credit scores and everything. Kind of talk about. This is more of a generic thing, and then I wanted to share our experience. And so yeah, we're glad to have you, and make sure you like and subscribe below to the video.
Please do.
Yeah, and send any comments, anything, any questions you ever have. We're here for you, and we love having you. So, yeah. All right. See you guys.
You know what's funny? I feel like one of those like game show girls just be like, and here is your prize.
Hershey Kiss, come on down.